The Little Mermaid. In the depths of the oceans, there was a vast world no one knew about. This world was full of singing dolphins, dancing jellyfish, and schools of rainbow-colored fish. Even deeper, there was a magnificent underwater kingdom. The kingdom was ruled by the king of the seas, who lived in the underwater palace with his mother and 3 daughters. The king's youngest daughter, Aria, was different from the other mermaids. She sang beautifully and designed wonderful jewelry for herself. While the other girls were happy living in the palace, it was never enough for Aria. She always wanted to rise to the surface and dreamed of the world above the water. She was curious about people who walked on land and longed to taste the food above, watch the scenery, and cuddle the cute animals. When she told her grandmother about these thoughts, her grandmother would say, "You can go to the surface the day you wear your crown of adulthood, just like your sisters." She also always warned her to be cautious about surface people, because those people polluted the seas and harmed the underwater creatures with their careless trash. One day, when Aria went up to the surface again, she saw a huge ship. The ship's captain was a very handsome prince who played the flute beautifully. When Aria heard the sound of the flute, she closed her eyes for a moment and hummed a song. When the prince heard the faint sound, he immediately stopped playing and looked around. Aria was so embarrassed that she immediately dove into the water so the prince wouldn't see her. The sea witch, watching everything through her crystal globe, burst into laughter. "So, the daughter of the Sea King, Aria, likes a human, does she?" she muttered. This witch, who was once banished from the kingdom, made an evil plan against Aria to take revenge on the king. Just then, lightning struck in the sky, a storm began, and the waves grew massive. The prince, who was the captain of the ship, was in a panic. The witch was still laughing loudly at what was happening. Soon, the giant waves sank the prince's great ship. When Aria noticed the ship's wreckage sinking to the ocean floor, she panicked. She saw the prince drowning behind the sinking flute. She quickly held him and carried him to the nearest shore. When the prince regained consciousness and opened his eyes, the mermaid Aria, certain he was safe, dove back into the water. During her days in the underwater kingdom, she never let go of the flute the prince played and couldn't stop thinking about him. But one day, her father Poseidon saw the flute and told her she must stay away from the human world. Aria didn't listen to her father. She wanted to see the prince again and went to the sea witch with a plan. She told the witch, "I want to live in the human world now and spend my days with the prince. Please give me a pair of legs." The sea witch didn't miss the chance and made a deal with her. She said she would give her legs to walk freely in the human world, but in return, she must take her voice. Aria agreed to the deal, risking the loss of her voice. The witch gave the Little Mermaid a bottle filled with potion. Aria quickly drank the potion and swam up to the surface at once. As she rose, her fishtail disappeared and was replaced by a pair of legs. Although she had difficulty walking when she first stepped ashore, after a while, she managed to walk like a human. Filled with great joy, she ran to the prince's palace. At last, she saw the prince. But there was another girl beside the prince. And this girl was a princess the prince would marry in 3 days. Aria was so sad that she wanted to return to the underwater kingdom. But it was impossible, as she had no voice and no longer had a fishtail. As she sat by the shore, feeling sad, the prince noticed Aria's red hair. He quietly approached her. "I searched for you everywhere but couldn't find you. Tell me where you've been?" he asked. Although Aria was happy the prince recognized her, she couldn't utter a single word. Though the prince was ready to open his heart to Aria, he didn't know what to do with the silent little mermaid. Meanwhile, King Poseidon, who learned what the sea witch had done to his daughter, rushed to confront her. With his magical staff, he destroyed all of her potions. He locked the witch away and declared she would remain imprisoned forever. Then he quickly swam to Aria. Just as the prince was about to give up on Aria and return to his palace, he noticed foamy waves forming in the sea. Aria knew those waves belonged to her father Poseidon and was very surprised. She thought if her father came, he'd be angry and she'd never see the prince again. Then Poseidon revealed himself in all his glory above the sea. The prince was speechless. He was seeing a sea being for the first time in his life. Poseidon looked at Aria and said, "I came to help you, my daughter." He raised his large seashell and spoke some magical words, making the voice inside reach Aria. The prince couldn't believe his eyes and didn't know what to do, because it was the first time he saw sea people in his life. He felt lucky to witness such a moment. At last, Aria got her soft and delicate voice back. Her first words were, "I'm sorry, Daddy. I should have listened to you." Then she turned to the prince and said, "Yes, I was the one who saved you. I was once a mermaid." At that moment, the prince fell in love with the mermaid, Aria. King Poseidon and the prince's father always supported the two lovers. Thus, the love of the Little Mermaid and the prince was spoken of on land and sea for centuries.